It's okay. We start?
Yes.
Don't forget that.
All right. Hi, everyone. Bonjour. Good afternoon. I'm Karia from the Campus France Manila office. Thanks for joining us for the France country presentation. And for this today's EHEF and tomorrow as well. So to start, here is what we'll be discussing this afternoon. And at the end, we'll have some time for your Q&A, and my colleague Yusra will be joining us for that part. So let's start. So first, what is Campus France? First thing to remember, we're not a school. We get mistaken often for a school, but we're not. So we are a French government agency in charge of promoting French higher education abroad. Here in the Philippines, we work with the French Embassy to inform Filipinos about the different higher education opportunities that are available in France. We are here to help you make a more informed decision about studying abroad. As you can see on screen, here are the list of our activities that we do here in the Philippines and our contact details where you can reach out to us later on if you have any questions. I'll be showing the contact details again at the end, and they are also available on our virtual booth. So the first thing I want to introduce to you about Campus France is our website. It's very comprehensive, and we've made sure to include all this essential information that you might be looking for in order to prepare for studying in France or doing your research in France. You see on screen some of the main highlights that you can find on our website. And personally, one of my favorite parts of the site is the section where it says alumni. You'll get to read and sometimes watch. We have some videos as well. The experiences of Filipino students and researchers who've studied in France or who are still currently there. So check those out. The second thing I want to highlight about the website is we have this Choose France interactive PDF guide. On screen, you can see what you can find on the guide. So it's a comprehensive overview of French higher education. It covers topics also about living in France and student life in France as well. Throughout the presentation, you'll see QR codes and links where you can access these different resources that we'll be showing you this afternoon. So this is the Choose France guide. It's also available on the page of the France page on the EHEF website. Next, we have two major search engines to help you find what you're looking for. So the first one, it's a search engine for scholarships. Once you click on it, you will see various scholarships that come from the French government, from the EU. Usually these are Erasmus scholarships, from French higher education institutions themselves, and from various companies, organizations, and associations. So make sure to personalize your results by clicking on the various filters on the left side of the screen. We have another search engine. This time it's for programs taught in English. It's the purple one. In France, there are 1,000+ programs completely or partially taught in English. So this makes it easier for you to find something that you want to study, even if you haven't mastered French yet. So don't worry if you don't know French, it's okay. There are a lot of programs in English in France. So next, just a very short introduction about the French higher education system. So in France, it's a country that welcomes students from around the world. And just to add, starting this academic year, all classes are already in person. So this is something that you might want to take into consideration when choosing a study abroad destination. So just some characteristics I want to highlight about studying in France. First, it's a melting pot of ideas and cultures. You get to experience studying in a multicultural country. This not only brings academic development, but also your personal development as well. You get to learn from the experiences of your peers and your instructors who come from different parts of the world. Second, studying in France opens you to the rest of Europe. France is bordered by several countries, making it easy to travel by land, sea, and air. Also, your French student visa allows you to visit 26 states that are part of the Schengen area. So you don't only get to experience France, you also get to experience the rest of Europe as well when you are in France as a student. Third, you also get to see the world from a different perspective. It makes you more open and accepting of different cultures and different ideas. It's also an opportunity for you to introduce Filipino identity and culture to your international classmates and again professors. Filipino students usually have a good reputation in France, where I'm Filipino. I was also a student in France for my master's. We're known as being friendly, but also hardworking, and we do pretty well in our academics. And lastly, your positive experience in France is the best way to promote French higher education to your friends and family. For example, many former exchange students in France, they usually spend a semester there. They return to France after graduation to pursue their masters. And they also share this their positive experience with their friends and family to also encourage them to pursue their studies in France. Next, just a comparison of the French higher education system with the Philippine one. It looks a bit complicated, but sorry, the most important thing to know is that while there are no official equivalences between French and Filipino degrees, students from the Philippines can apply to degrees in France as long as they have completed or will soon complete a prerequisite degree. So for example, if you're interested in applying for a master's degree in France, as long as you have a bachelor's degree from the Philippines or you are in your senior year, so you'll be graduating soon, you can already apply to master's degrees in France. Same thing for PhDs and for undergrad. So for those who are still in senior high. There's usually no need to take like one or two more, they call it like prep years to be able to apply to a French higher education institution. And also you'll see on screen just some info about the European credit transfer system that's recognized throughout the EU and worldwide as well. Okay, just next, some key figures about French higher education system in terms of internationalization. So each year, France welcomes over 320 international students from different parts of the world. And you can see on screen some key figures we want to share about France as a study abroad destination. And also, here's a map of the top student cities in France for this year. It was ranked by a magazine called L'Étudiant. So there's more to France than just Paris. There are many, many options in different parts of the country. And just because you don't live in the capital, you don't study in Paris, it doesn't mean that the quality of your education is different. We encourage you to take a look at these different options where the cost of living is significantly less compared to Paris, but the quality of education is the same. Our participants in the higher education fair, their schools and universities are located in different parts of the country. So make sure to visit the virtual booths of our 26 French higher education institutions. Many of them have beautiful campuses around different parts of the country. So next, just in terms of Filipino students in France, this year, for this semester, there were 91 new arrivals for the first sem. And here are their top destinations. So it's Paris, Toulouse, and then Nantes. It's good to know that you won't be the only Filipino. There's a small but growing community of Filipino students in France. There's actually an official association for this group. And just in terms for the fields of study, you'll see it on screen. Majority of Filipino students who study in France take up business, followed by the STEM fields and then the arts. This is at least for the stats of this academic year. Next, in terms of scholarships, 43, so that's almost half of the 91 Filipino students in France received scholarships for their studies. And you can see this chart on screen. to show you the different sources of their scholarships. So majority of them received some sort of grant for their from their French higher education institution. Okay, next. Excuse me. So why study in France? Of course, there are many reasons, but we'd like to highlight two for this afternoon. First, study in France for its world-class higher education system. French HEIs are among the most prestigious in the world. You'll see on screen that there are several French higher education institutions that are part of the world's top 50 in the latest QS ranking by subject. If you want to take a look at the complete list, again, here's a link and a QR code that will lead you to the page with a complete list. Next, for those who are interested in doing the research or their PhDs in France, the research in France, its high-level scientific output is recognized worldwide. You can see some of the characteristics on screen in terms of the awards it's received, its output in terms of scientific journals and publication. And it's good to know that in many STEM or like technical and scientific fields, English is the main language of instruction and research. And over 40% of PhD candidates in France come from abroad. So if you want to find out the different opportunities for doing research in France, again, we have some sort of PhD directory for doctoral schools that you can access to find a doctoral school in your specific specialization. So next, again, I've mentioned this earlier, but mastery of French is not a prerequisite to be able to study in France, because there are 1,000+ programs that are completely taught in English. And in many of these institutions, if your program is taught in English, they also have required French language classes for international students. So you also get to improve your French along the way. And I'd also like to highlight some of the benefits of learning French. You can see them on screen. Of course, learning French is still an advantage, even if your program is taught in English. For example, it's easier to make friends if you know French. It's easier to have different conversations with various types of people in different kinds of situations. And also later on for your career, it's a definite advantage if you've mastered French, especially if you want to look for a job in France or in other European Union states. The second reason for choosing France is to study there for its unique art de vivre. So in France, your stay there as a student will open you to the French way of life, and you get to experience it firsthand. There are many social and cultural activities that bring color and rhythm to daily life. Here are some characteristics of the French way of life. So France is the world capital for fine arts, food, fashion, and culture. There are many museums, festivals, exhibitions, concerts, and cultural events all around the country throughout the year. And many of these, if not most, have discounted rates or are free for students in France. Next, the country is also a global leader in innovation, sustainability, and the state makes significant investments in these fields. Then also, I've mentioned this, France is located at the crossroads of Europe. There's a little bit of Europe in different parts of France, depending on which country it's next to. And again, with your student visa, you get to travel around the EU as well during your stay as a student. And lastly, France is the most visited country in the world. It's home to 40+ UNESCO heritage sites, and it's home to different landscapes. Okay, sorry. Just some other reasons for studying in France. First is because we take care of our students. And if you're not yet vaccinated, you can also get vaccinated in France. Also in the country, we take care of our students by making them part of our healthcare system that covers around 70% of your healthcare expenses. And you also get to you can have the opportunity to apply for different grants and subsidies from the government to help make expenses a bit more reasonable, which will go to the next slide. Costs and scholarships. Here's just a quick comparison of different costs. For public institutions in France, these are usually set by the state, and private institutions, usually these are Catholic universities and business and engineering schools, where the costs may be a bit more expensive. But when we compare it to other more traditional destinations for Filipino students, costs in France are more reasonable. And again, you're part of the national healthcare system. This is not usually the case for other popular student study abroad destinations. So next, also just to wrap up my part, just some information about the usual costs for students, and we also have a sample student budget. These are also available on the prepare for your stay section of our website if you want to look at it in more detail. In terms of scholarships, the French Embassy, we have two major scholarships, which are the Phil France and Phil France DOST scholarships. We also have info available about this on our France page of the EHEF site. These will open in January 2022. And just some other scholarships that have been awarded to Filipino students recently from private sources and from the EIFEL Excellence Scholarships from the French Foreign Ministry. So just to wrap up, just some tips on applying and asking for help from us. In terms of timelines, there's no one fixed deadline for applications. So the best source of information will be the websites of the French higher education institutions themselves. Then we don't follow the Study in France online application procedure. So you will almost always have to apply to the universities and schools on your own through their online application procedures. We've also prepared this guide by level for applying to French higher education institutions for students from the Philippines. Again, it's available on our website. This next, to wrap up, here are some documents and requirements we encourage you to prepare for in advance. These are usually part of the core application documents that schools and universities in France will ask you to submit. And just some basic application requirements regarding language, proficiency for French and English, and again, for the degree equivalences. So just to wrap up, I'm Karia from Campus France. My colleague Yusra is here also to help answer your questions. Thanks for listening to our country presentation. Here are our contact details. Again, you can find all of these on the France page of the EHEF website. And please visit the virtual booths of our participating French higher education institutions who will be here today and tomorrow to help guide you towards pursuing your goal of studying in France or doing your research in France. Thank you. And now we are open for some questions. Wait, let me just close this.
Thank you, Karia.
You're welcome. Let's check the questions. Okay, there are a lot actually, sorry. Let me just read them out to you.
I can see one here,
Yeah.
but I think you know more.
Okay.
The question is, so good day, would you happen to offer scholarships in École Centrale de Nantes? I have sent you an email a few days ago and I have chosen the course using the tools filters, very much willing.
Okay, for this one, it's best to ask the school itself if they have their own scholarship programs or grants for international students, because as you've seen on screen earlier, most of the scholarships received by Filipino students come from the French higher education institutions themselves. You can also apply for the EIFEL scholarships or the Phil France scholarships for École Centrale. Okay, question 2. I'm currently taking my last term at in Vienna, and by the end of Feb, may I know if there's an opportunity to pursue PhDs under Erasmus Plus. Yes, we have the search engine for the doctoral schools for that. You can filter it according to your field of specialization. Yusra, this is for you. Is a Philippine University Certificate of English as a medium of instruction usually accepted to be exempt from the IELTS or any other English proficiency test?
Okay. Okay, I think the best thing is to ask the university that you want to apply to.
Yes,
Because
that's correct.
sometimes they want TOEFL, or maybe they want another certificate, or maybe the one that you already have is okay. So I think you should get in touch with the university directly.
Yes, we agree. And you can ask them questions through the chat box of their virtual booths.
I don't know which school you were talking about, but maybe you can get in touch with them here. I mean, during the fair.
But usually, yes, they can waive the IELTS if you have this. But again, it's best to confirm with the school or university you're interested in. Okay, next, are all French schools available under the Erasmus scholarship? Yusra, do you have something there?
Yes, they are not all under the Erasmus scholarship. I think you can check on the. I think you should, the same. I think you should ask the school that you're interested in, or maybe check the website of Erasmus. They probably have a list with all the schools under the Erasmus scholarship.
You can also visit the booth of the EU delegation during the virtual fair. They usually have a lot of information about the Erasmus programs.
There's also a webinar, I think it's tomorrow, with Erasmus Mundus.
Yeah.
There are two actually, one at 10 a.m. and the other one is at 10:40. So maybe you can ask your question to the CEO of Campus Erasmus.
Yes. Let me check the other questions. Okay, only a clarification. Is this right that undergraduate students who aim to apply for a medical course, is it okay? For medicine, may I answer this question, Yusra?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, for medicine and medical studies and related studies like, I don't know, nursing or like dentistry and things like that, honestly, it's a bit complicated to study in France if you're a student not from the EU, so outside the EU, and if you don't know how to speak French. Honestly, unfortunately, it's quite complicated and it's almost hard. It's almost impossible. So what we usually do, or what we usually encourage students to take instead, will be like health related fields, maybe like a master's in biotechnology or a master's in public health or a master's in, I don't know, like pharmacology or something like that, but not medicine and it's medical practice. It's really quite complicated, unfortunately. I think that's all the questions we have. Okay, one more question. When will the application for the EIFL scholarship, excellent scholarship program start? We have this on the page of the France page of the EHF website. Okay, here's a question about the PhilFrance scholarships. Is the PhilFrance scholarship slot competition steep? So is it difficult? Are fresh graduates with no job experience, do they still have a chance? I'll answer, then user can add. Yes, it's a steep competition because it's a scholar. It's an excellent scholarship. We post the criteria for evaluation on the PhilFrance scholarship site, but it's not impossible if you don't have work experience yet. In fact, some awardees of the PhilFrance scholarships from previous years were fresh grads or those who were still in their senior year of college when they applied and they got the PhilFrance scholarship. So it really depends on the quality of your profile and what you want to take in France. I hear you, sir. This is a nice question for you. What is the biggest and most common challenge that future students should know, and what should they prepare for?
What is the biggest challenge that a future student should... Okay, this is not a specific question for like French education, but it's like a general question. And I would say that the biggest and common challenge Okay, I'm gonna talk about an education in a broad country.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is to, I would say, try to not stick with the people who have the same culture. You know, like as a Filipino, if you go to France, try not to stick with Filipino students because
Yes.
this is, you know, it's a natural thing. But I would advise you to just be open-minded and try to talk to French people, try to learn
Yeah.
French or any other country. I mean, but I'm speaking for French now.
Yeah.
And just to experience the international experience.
Yes, I agree. Like what I said, I was a Filipino student for my master's degree in France, but in my program, I was the only Filipino, so I had no opportunity to stick with just Filipinos. Anyway, we do have a tendency to stick together, maybe like with
Natural.
yeah,
Something.
very natural. Like for me, it was with other Asians or sometimes, most of the time actually, with Latin Americans because we do share a bit of our culture. We have a common Hispanic culture. It's natural, but yeah, so for me, like, why study abroad if you're just going to stick with, I mean, I'm not saying abandon your Filipino friends, but why study abroad if you're just going to stick or put yourself in a situation where the culture is the same as what you're used to? It's one of the challenges and one of the fruitful experiences of studying abroad is to be able to share your culture with others who don't know about it, and also to learn about the culture of those you are not familiar with. So yeah, it's actually a very enriching experience, not just academically but like personally as well. So we have a few more minutes.
I see another interesting question.
Yeah.
Here. I don't know if we still have time actually.
We have like 2 minutes for the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay, question 13. What level of French is needed for programs that is taught in both English and French?
Yes.
Okay, so French, like if it's totally taught in French.
3 minutes left.
Thank you. Okay. There.
Okay, thank you. Usually they ask for a B2 level. Yeah, this is
That's like upper intermediate.
Yeah,
B2.
exactly.
Yeah.
B2. And then for English, I think as a Filipino, usually like you have very good English, so it won't be a problem. And I would say, yeah, you should be also like almost fluent in English, I think.
Yeah. For English, it has to be, again, sometimes French higher education institutions can exempt you if you have the certificate as English of the medium of instruction, but you have to confirm with them. But it's usually, like for us, it's not really a problem because most of our lives we were taught in English. Our higher education system is completely, or maybe like 90% in English. So it's a definite advantage for us. But for French, yeah, it's like B2 upper intermediate. If you want to reach that level, we encourage you to take French lessons at the Alliance Française. It's a French language school and cultural institution. In Makati, they have a lot of classes online, of course, with everything that's happening for different levels of French. So even if it's like a beginner level, or if you already have some knowledge of French, you can always take classes with the Alliance Française. I think that's it for our questions. If you have any other questions, or if you need additional information, again, we're there at the France page of the EHEF website. We have a chat box. You can send in your questions, and we also encourage you to visit the different virtual booths of our 26 French higher education institutions. Their booths are also manned by their own representatives. So if you have very specific questions about a program or a course, then it's best to ask them directly. They are there to lend you a hand throughout the online fair. Yusra, do you have anything to add before we end?
No, I think you said everything I was thinking about actually. So thank you everyone for attending this webinar. So yeah, please don't hesitate if you have any question. Karia gave you all the emails. I hope you got all the emails and you took like screenshots or pictures, something like that. So please, if you have any questions, just get in touch with us. Thank you,
Also,
everyone.
so last thing, if you want a copy of the presentation, send us a message on the chat box. We can send you a copy. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.